Hello, it's Tuesday night at 6:30, so it's time again for What We're Reading. And tonight I have special guests from the Plainfield and Comstock Park branches of KDL. Plainfield has a big warm place in my heart because I worked there, and Susan was mean enough to tell me that it's been almost 20 years ago. So I have the regional manager of the Plainfield and Comstock branches, Scott Neinmeyer, and I have the branch outreach and program specialist, Susan Earhart, who's also a youth librarian, who I've known as a youth librarian for at least that 20 years. Susan, and she is fabulous. I'm going to start with Susan. Susan, you read grown-up books too, don't you?
I do, but I wasn't going to talk about grown-up books today.
No? Okay. Well, that's good.
I have an 18 and 23-year-old, and I realized a few years ago that I read a lot of teen books because my older daughter especially would say, Mom, this is a great book. You need to read it. Mom, this is a great book. You need to read it. And I hadn't read any chapter books or middle grade books for a long time. So I've been kind of concentrating on that the last couple of years. So that's what I was going to talk about. So the first one that I want to share is by Jacqueline Woodson. It's called Before the Ever After. And it's really
Woodson.
Yes, this is a beautiful story, and it's written in free verse, so it's pretty short, easy read, but the story isn't really easy. It's about a 12-year-old boy, ZJ, and his dad is a professional football player. He adores his dad, and he's incredibly proud of him, but his dad seems to be changing. He's becoming forgetful and moody. He's getting angry at really small things, and ZJ's friends they don't want to come to his house anymore because his dad is so unpredictable. So his dad's doctors think that his dad might be having problems because of all the concussions he got when he was playing football. The story takes place in 1999, so they didn't know much about CTE then that affects football players. And in the book, ZJ has to come to terms with the fact that the dad that he knew was gone, and the kind of slow, sleepy-eyed guy who forgets his name sometimes is the dad that he has now. Thankfully, in the book, family kind of rallies around, and his friends do come back around. And even though the end is sad because his dad isn't going to recover, he's only going to get worse, the warmth of the extended family and his friends shines through. So Before the Ever After by Jacqueline Woodson. It's a middle grade chapter book, so like grades 4, 5, 6.
And very timely. I wonder how common that is with ex-football players. Does anyone know?
You only hear if they...
Yeah. Where did it take place?
Oh, geez. I don't know.
Midwest?
I don't know if it says the state that it took place in.
It wouldn't change.
Manager to ask the tough questions.
I know, right? I don't think it says like what team he played for or anything. So we don't know.
So we'll pick on Scott now. Scott is the manager, so I made a joke about managers not reading as much as librarians, but we know that that's not true.
Scott, we get to read the fun stuff. This is a softer read, but it's been in my house for a while now. It's Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. And so I've been wanting to read it for a long time. My wife read it last summer, and I was pleased to see it's on our core collection. So I can check that one off the core collection. I've got many to go. But it's a great read. It's really about Trevor Noah's early childhood life in South Africa. So he's born to a Black South African mother. He has a white Swiss father, and so he's colored in the time of apartheid. He was born in '84, and so that was the first 6 years of his life. He truly was born a crime. He couldn't be seen in public with his father or his mother. So it was just it was against the law, and he could have gotten separated from his family. So he didn't really realize it at the time, but he was an indoor kid because he had to be. And then thankfully that ended in 1990 when he was 6 or 7 years old, but it was still a very much divided country. And so he tells a series of short stories from before 6th through high school. It doesn't touch on his move to United States. It doesn't touch on him becoming the host of The Daily Show or any of that, which I'm still interested to learn more about. But the perspective he has on him being colored in an area where there was 3 races. There was black, white, and colored. And obviously we all know it's different than that, but that's the reality he lived in. So he had to kind of go between all 3 groups never fitting in any of them properly. And there was just a number of really great stories that kind of put things in perspective. And it wasn't a light read, but he is a comedian, so you're able to have some really tough subjects be sort of easy to digest. And for me to see it through his eyes was really, really a neat experience to kind of go through.
That's on the core list, and I'm dying to read it, but I haven't yet. I love The Daily Show. Scott, tell me, so you say he makes it a little lighter. Is he, because he's hysterical on The Daily Show.
He is, and he's very funny in this one as well. What was that?
Are there laugh out loud moments in the book?
Many. I think every chapter is a laugh out loud moment, and then it gets right into heavy and hard. The last chapter is like gut wrenching, but everything before that, he definitely puts a light spin. And there's a lot of times I laughed out loud, almost every chapter.
I'm going to put that on my list. And for anyone who doesn't know, our core collection is something new at KDL, where we're labeling books that are our favorites and your favorites, because they're the most popular and well-respected books. We've got 100 titles of the adults. So look for those. They're going to have a sticker on the side that says KDL Core. They started at Ada, but they're going to be coming to all the branches starting in May. So look for those and look for lists of those. If you're looking for great reads, those are 100 terrific titles. And I think it's especially, I've noticed at Ada, where we're piloting it, the nonfiction books are going out really quicker, because sometimes people don't always know the hot nonfiction books. You can't always lean on, this is my favorite author, so did Trevor Noah write anything else? Probably not. So what biography do I read next? Those kind of things. It's great to have a list. So the core has some great nonfiction titles. So check it out. I had to do a little plug for the core. Sorry about that.
Glad you did.
I'm going to go back to Susan, because I know Susan brought more than one.
I did. My other one here is American as Paneer Pie by Supriya Kalkar. And it is another middle grade fiction book. It's about an 11-year-old named Lekha. She's an Indian American girl. She lives about an hour from Detroit, so set in Michigan, which is kind of unusual. You don't find a lot of kids' books set in Michigan. Her parents moved from Mumbai before she was born, so she was born in this country, but her schoolmates and teachers make her feel different all the time, which she hates. So she tries to be as un-Indian as possible. She doesn't bring strong-smelling food in her lunch. She hides the freckle on her forehead that resembles a bindi. She tries to ignore all of the microaggressions she has to deal with every day. Her classmates and her teachers don't bother to learn how to pronounce her name correctly. Her teachers single her out to explain Indian holidays. And the boys poke fun at her unshaven legs and the smell of the coconut oil that she puts in her very thick curly hair. So in her town, a woman starts running for Congress and an anti-immigrant platform. And at the same time, a family newly in the United States from Mumbai moves into Lekha's neighborhood. They have a daughter named Avantika, who's going to be in Lekha's class, and Lekha is both thrilled and horrified. She's excited that there will be someone there at school who gets it, because she's one of the very few Indian American kids at her school, but she's really nervous that Avantika will get teased for her accent at school. But to her surprise, Avantika is not at all embarrassed to be from India, and she stands up to the bullies at school who try to shame her for her lunch or the way she dresses. And Lekha kind of realizes, maybe I don't have to apologize for who I am. And then a racist incident happens that involves Lekha's family. And after that, she kind of finds the courage to stand up for herself and her family and say, you know what? I am Indian American and I am proud of it. It was a really great book. And I love that it took place in Michigan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. I'm going to put you on the spot, Susan. Don't get mad at me. Before we started, you showed me an adult book that you just loved.
I did, yes. It's The Exiles by Christina Baker Klein. She also wrote Orphan Train, which I thought was fine. But The Exiles I really loved. I had to read it for a book club. I wouldn't have read it otherwise, but it takes place in the 1840s, and it kind of follows the story of three women who, two of them are accused of fairly minor crimes in England, and they're put on a convict ship to go to what is now Tasmania. And then the third is an Aboriginal girl who is taken from her stepfather as a sort of social experiment to go live with the governor, who's white, and his wife. And the one of the women on the convict ship is pregnant by, she was a governess. She's pregnant by the son, the older brother of the person she was governess for. So that's extra shame heaped on her. And they had this terrible experience in prison, and then a terrible experience on the convict ship coming over, and a tragedy happens, and one of these three women is pretending to be the mother of the baby, and then they find out she's not really the mother, and the baby's taken away, and it's kind of horrifying, but it's just really absorbing. You know, you think of how modern day Australia was kind of founded by people who came over on these convict ships, and
for some reason, I never thought of women being sent over to Tasmania.
I didn't either, but apparently it was a thing. Like one of the women, she was a midwife, but she stole a silver spoon, and that's it. She stole a silver spoon, and she was sent off to Tasmania on a convict ship. And the other woman, the one who got pregnant, she didn't really even do anything. The son gave her a ruby ring that belonged to his family as kind of a promise ring, and then he went out of town, and they found the ring in her room, and they said, "Oh, you stole this ring, so off you go to prison." So she didn't actually commit a crime, and she was still sent to prison for it.
Yikes. Okay. So, it sounds good because you liked it, but it sounds very depressing.
Well, I mean, it does have some sad parts, but it has some happy parts too. It's happy in the end for some of the characters.
Well, I have to admit that I'm kind of between books because I've got a book discussion here at the Amy Van Andel Branch in our beautiful courtyard Friday at noon about The River of Doubt by Candace Millard, which I love and have been recommending it without having read it for years, based on if you're watching and you are a Plainfield Library regular and have been for a while, you might remember Miss Maggie. Maggie is one of the best book talkers who've ever lived or worked at KDL. She read everything and could go off and tell you every detail about it and make it sound so exciting and like you had to read the book. And one of her best book talks I've ever seen her done was on River of Doubt. So if you love Miss Maggie and her books, you would love this. But I finally read it for the book discussion, and it holds up. It's just fabulous. But I talked about it last week, so I won't talk about it again. But I needed an in-between, so I'm going to say if you use Libby or Overdrive, check out the magazines. Because I was rifling through the magazines on my phone to say, well, if I just do something, because I've got to read for a minute, but I'm not ready to start a whole new book yet. They have a great selection of magazines. They've got National Geographic, Scientific American, Cook's Illustrated. They've got children's magazines. They've got Us Weekly, if you just need a little trashy mag, you know what I mean? They've got a lot of handyman and craft magazines. They've got a couple of Minecraft magazines. I don't know if this is still as big as it was, but my kids, if I wanted to keep them busy in the doctor's office for a while, would love to scroll through the Minecraft magazine on my phone. So check it out if you're a magazine lover. You can check it out from Libby or Overdrive, and they'll even remind you when the next issue comes, which is really cool. And you can just check it out. Love it. You don't have to get on a waiting list either. They're just all available. So that is fabulous. Scott, anything else you would like to leave us with? You just started a book. Just tell us the title.
So regional manager. I'm 5 months old, so I have a while before I can catch up to the both of you. But I'm excited to get there. No, now I want to check out the magazine app. I'm overwhelmed with all the material that's available, and I need to catch up and get on my core list and all sorts of reading options.
Yay! But Susan told me that you just started a book.
Well, I did. So I have a couple professional books. The Cultural Intelligence by David Littlemore. All of our managers at KDL, the regional managers, are reading that one, which has been a really great read. And we've got a talk going back and forth, so it's really fun to share ideas.
Yeah.
And then Plainfield Library, as part of our EDI initiatives, we're reading City Within a City, which is great. It's about Grand Rapids.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming up from the 1915s almost till now. And so it's a little academic, but it's for me, I've only been in the city for 5 years. So I'm learning a ton about Grand Rapids. It's a really important topic that I'm excited to get into. And so that's been that's a really important, great book. It's not a page turner the way this is, but it makes you want to reread things to really understand, what was happening here for so many years.
Well, the author tells you that Grand Rapids is one of the most segregated cities in the United States. And so the book kind of talks about why that is, all the reasons that it is. And it's interesting.
Yeah. And that's City Within a City. Well, I put you guys both on the spot and you're great sports, and I'm sorry about that. But thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for talking about all your books. And we'll see everybody next week. Join me next Tuesday at 6:30. I'll be right back here. See you then.
Thank you, Penny. It's my pleasure.
Thanks.
Bye, Susan.
Bye.